Chasing After the Heart of God, and today Julie will read from Joy Road.
Thank you. Thank you all for sticking with us this long afternoon. So I finished my memoir, and it is called Joy Road, and my mentor and editor read it, and he said, it's got a lot of your dad in there. You need to tell us who your dad is. Thus, the prologue. Daddy's baby girl. In the picture, I'm 1 hour old, wrapped in a soft white blanket with a head full of beautiful black hair, eyes open, weighing just over 5 pounds. In the photograph, my daddy's reflection can be seen in the glass that separates us. He is looking at me real tenderly. There is this flash of light on the glass, too, and I always figured that was my spirit waiting to climb into my body once I knew for sure that Daddy wanted me, his third baby girl. My parents, Jack and Betty Evans, thought I was going to be a boy, and they were going to name me Jimmy. Daddy needed a boy, so he could teach him how to build and how to fish and ride a motorcycle and maybe even how to use a bow and arrow. But I was a girl, and I would be their last baby. Mama had already gone through the change, but I snuck in there somehow. They were 43 years old when they had me. I think they were awfully disappointed, but the photograph makes me think that Daddy loved me anyway. I don't know exactly how my parents navigated the world. I don't know how my dad wooed my mom or how my mom seduced my dad. I don't know of a single sexy, romantic, embarrassing, challenging moment they faced as young newlyweds. I don't know why they named me Julie or why my mother became an alcoholic. I'm not really sure why my dad had a colostomy bag on that time I accidentally went in the bathroom when he was taking a bath, but I couldn't quit thinking of it. I don't know how decisions were made or bills were paid. I don't know why I always hollered for my mama in the middle of the night and she'd have to sleep with me. But I do know that it was very embarrassing to have such old parents. All the other kids' parents were young and normal, but not mine. My dad coughed all the time and spit up huge wads of junk into his hanky, or he'd slip open the car door and spit right on the ground. And Mama got drunk way too often. My mom would always be with me. If I was downstairs, she was downstairs. If I was upstairs and she was still awake, she would be with me. When we were home, we were inseparable for the first 11 years of my life. We did everything together. She used to beg me to stay home from school so we could go junking, or on a safari, as she liked to call it, for my near obsession with buying she liked to refer to my near obsession with buying old furniture so I could refinish it. I liked staying home with my mom until about mid-afternoon when she wasn't herself anymore and we'd have fights about drinking. I used to pour out the bottles I'd find and then fill them up with mostly water. As a family, we rarely sat down together. I would come in from the horse barn, find something to eat, and take it downstairs with me to nibble on while I was cleaning my tack or stripping furniture, and always watching television. I used to stick a straightened-out bobby pin into the lock of my sister Cindy's bedroom door and go in and search through her stuff. I would try on her bras and wear her clothes and read some of her poems, and I could never figure out why we were so different from each other. She was so perfect and pretty. I would try to imitate her, but it never worked out. When I got wire rim glasses, because she had wire rim glasses, mine came out so thick I looked deranged. My other sister, Bevy, was 20 years older when I was born, and she never lived with us, so I never really got to know her. She scared me. She got this crazy idea that I shouldn't have any toy guns to go with my cowboy suits, so she took them all to the dump when she was visiting us one time. Another time, she took all my little bras and panties that Aunt Sally had given me and burned them. They were mostly nylon, so they more melted than burned. The only time I really felt close to Bevy was when she asked me to pluck the hairs from her chin or look for the gray hairs on her head and pull them out. My dad was bald when I met him and shaved the sides of his head every couple of days, and I also caught him shaving his armpits another time when I accidentally went in the bathroom when he was in there. He had some scars on the back of his neck and on his back where they had to sew his arm on because it got torn off when he caught our neighbor, Marnie Brum, the time the boat they were in hit a sandbar and she went flying. Said my dad saved her life. After that, Dad would ask Marnie Brum's son, Jordy, to help him do stuff, which made me really mad. I hated other kids helping my dad do things that I should help him do. I'd feel this stabbing pain in my heart, and I'd run to my room and lock the door and cry. I was so sick about this that I had started to hide important things under my bed. Things that people would always need, like spatulas, peanut butter, hammers, car keys, and the garage door opener, so they'd have to come to me. Back then, some people called me Gopher, like in Julie, go for this, or Julie, go for that. I knew where everything was, and I cleaned everything all the time, and rearranged the furniture every week, and organized everyone's drawers while I watched television. I vacuumed and raked the shag carpeting just like the man who installed it showed us how to do. I'd wait for Daddy to come home, and I'd stand outside each room I had done my magic in and wait for him to inspect it. He got better at thoroughly inspecting my work when I would open each drawer or reveal the pledge-based shine on each piece of furniture. I was looking for a promotion, not a pat on the back. I wanted to be good enough for him. I wanted to work for him. I wanted to be surety waterproofing. I wanted his surety waterproofing trucks to say Jack Evans and Daughter Incorporated. Daddy was a builder and a waterproofer. He worked all the time. He had this big warehouse where he had a fleet of trucks and huge buckets of tar and spackle and shelves full of every kind of brush you could imagine. The horse barn where I kept my pony was not too far from Daddy's warehouse, so I could ride there almost every day to visit him. It made me feel so glamorous to ride along the road and have people crane their necks to see me. Daddy got me Pogo when I was 8 years old. I did everything with that pony. When I got him, he was stubborn and mean and didn't do much of anything except outsmart all the little kids who tried to ride him. I found the secret to training a horse is just to love them. Tell them everything you're going through, and it makes them feel important to know these things, and they listen better and try to help you through whatever you're going through. Pogo became a champion show pony, but after about 2 years, my legs got too long, and they said I was too good a rider to keep him. I needed a taller horse, but I loved Pogo very much, so I tried to let it ride. But I was growing fast, so I rode over to talk to my dad. I usually wore canary yellow breeches and a black hunt coat when I showed, but the rich kids wore midnight blue velvet hunt jackets and crisp white breeches and rode thoroughbreds. I saw how my dad worked when he didn't know I was watching. I would watch the sweat streaming off his head. I knew he wouldn't be able to get me something like that. So when I approached him that day, I had an idea. Maybe I could get a job and get the money for the horse myself. He told me he'd call his friend Slim. I wanted to die. Slim was like the worst person to call. He was a hick. He was a backward cowpoke who wouldn't know a thing about a good horse. I cringed and slunk away. I dreaded the outcome, and then I tried to forget about it. I hopped on Pogo, looking ridiculously tall, and rode to the bowling alley next door and asked Billy the waitress for a bowl of her famous chicken dumpling soup. After eating, I jumped on Pogo again and went back behind my dad's warehouse where there was an old farm road that led to a cornfield, and we ran and ran faster and faster until it felt like we were free, like birds or angels, just this side of heaven. We did our cool-off walk back to the barn, and then I washed him with a cool bucket of water, fluffed up his stall, got myself a cold Royal Crown Cola, and waited for my dad to pick me up. 6 months later, in the dead of winter, on a really cold and windy day, somebody hollered out that my dad had just pulled up and he was in an old guy's beat-up truck, and they had a horse trailer with him. I slid off the horse I'd been working out and handed the reins to one of the younger kids, and stiff-backed, I walked out to meet my father. As I rounded the corner, Slim spit out a long stream of thick brown liquid that hit the ground and froze. He dropped open the back of the trailer, and out back the manure-stained hind end of a fuzzy-coated white horse, and I wanted to pass out. I stood there, not breathing, as the rest of the green-stained horse appeared. I groaned. The horse turned his head to look at me, and my knees nearly buckled. It was like looking at God or something. He looked right at me, and I ran to meet him. I took the lead line, I put my hand under his soft muzzle, and he licked me. I turned to look at my dad, and he was smiling. The horse was 3/4 Arabian with a champion sire named Emnian, so his full registered name was Omar of Emnian. but I just called him Om. So Pogo got traded in for Omar, an even trade, $500. It was hard to see Pogo go, but my little pony really didn't hesitate to walk up the ramp into the horse trailer. We had the winter to train and get used to each other, and in the spring we came out in our full glory as horse and rider. Me, a funny-looking 11-year-old kid with thick wire-rimmed glasses and a mouthful of braces, and him, a stunning, sleek, silver, dish-faced, 5-year-old registered Arabian that took the amateur show world by storm as he won every class we entered in. His extended trot made people sit up and take notice. He gave me confidence I'd never had. He was a gentleman and a charmer. My dad loved Omar too. I had a lot of time with my dad toward the end of his life, the whole long year as he was healing from brain surgery or shortly thereafter dying of lung cancer and bone cancer. I never asked him any questions though, and now I don't know nearly enough about him. I don't even know his parents' real names. His dad was called Butch and had a leg amputated when I was about 3 years old, and he died before I got to know him. And his mom had dementia by the time I met her and insisted on taking my first Betsy Wetsy doll from me, with my daddy saying, "Let her have it, Juby." One time Omar and I had visited my dad at the warehouse on our way to gallop through the cornfields, and after we left Dad, I was singing "I'm Leaving on a Jet Plane" for the 6th time, and I just stretched out on Omar's back, and he walked along the farm road, and that's all I remember, because what happened next was a big rattlesnake rose up on its tail and tried to strike at him, and he reared up and came down hard on the snake's head, killing it, as I went tumbling off and landed on my head. I went unconscious. Omar turned on his heel, ran over to Dad's warehouse, and Dad swung up on his back, and Omar led him right back to me. Dad scooped me up and carried me to his car. When I came to, he told me the story, and I think that is the first story my dad ever told me. And now,
I'm going to need you to stall again there, Jubes.
we're going to